May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke Audio Podcast. I'm DC, Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, doing our bit to help preserve the legacy of Shunryu Suzuki and those whose paths cross his, and anything else that comes to mind. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free from economic hardship, and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitation of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. So today we have a guest, Toni Weisberg, formerly Toni McCarty. And before that, when she was at Zen Center, Toni Johansen, T-O-N-I, the female of the Toni and Toni Johansen couple that was at Zen Center back starting in 1965. And T-O-N-I is she and T-O-N-Y was he. And he has passed on. He was running a Zendo in Santa Barbara, right up to the end, she said. And that wasn't that many years ago, 5 years ago or something. Anyway, Toni and Toni came to Zen Center in 65. And, you know, if you read her interview, which I did maybe about 25 years ago on Cuke.com, it's really great how she talks about how she came to Zen Center. She talks about it here too, but it's really neat. I really like it, and it was so full. And this is too, but that was when I was working on Crooked Cucumber. It was so full of great information that I used, a lot of what she said to talk about the Los Altos Zendo. And her exchanges with Shunryu Suzuki, they were great. She had a notebook that she took notes and made comments, and then he'd look at it and make some comment to her or write something in it. And so we now have that notebook scanned and transcribed, and she read it and made some additions, and that will be another podcast that'll come on in a few weeks. And her daughter, as you'll learn in this, I've already done a talk with her. We're going to have her daughter, who was at Tassajara in elementary school. And we had a little school that Toni and her friend Lynn Lockey, who was Lynn Warnkoff back then, who was, I believe, last week's podcast, that, they got going there at Tassajara. There was like a dozen kids in it. 1970, it was very cool, and they sewed rock suits. So we'll hear a little bit about that from Toni, and then later from her daughter. Anyway, she went on to do various things and become a lawyer late in life, very late, and had some hard times, which you'll hear about, and talk about how I received the original manuscript that Marion Derby did for Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. That it was just called Beginner's Mind. It was just a little draft, sort of, typed out and all that. But that was neat to have. We have that on Cuke.com. And anyway, so that gives you an idea about Toni. So look, the way it starts, it goes, there you are, I think I said something. It's because we were having trouble connecting, but we did. And so, listen, after we've had our pause to meditate, we'll give Toni Johansen a call. And so when you hear the bell, if you've set your mind, hit pause and meditate or whatever for as long as you wish. And when you're ready to come back, hit unpause. And we'll hit the bell to end the meditation or whatever. And we'll give Toni a call.
Hello.
Oh, good. There you are.
Good morning.
Good
How are
morning.
you?
Fine. How are you doing?
Oh, fine. Thank you. Good to hear you.
Yeah, good to hear you. Wow.
You're putting together some stories about Tassajara. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. I'm sort of rounding them up now. I've been writing little things off and on for about 9 years now, I guess.
Yeah. I know how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, well, Rhonda, my daughter, she said, we talked about it, and she said she'd love to tell you about her experiences as a kid at Tassajara.
Absolutely.
So that would be good.
That would be good. Tell her I want to do a podcast with her.
Okay.
And also, let's you and me do a podcast right now, which means we just talk normally, just like we're doing. You're working on a book called.
Yeah.
It's got a good name too, Hungry Ghost.
Yes, right. I put it aside for quite a while, and then I recently started up again to finish it, hopefully.
Tell me about it.
Well, it has to do with my experiences as a early Zen student with Suzuki Roshi, and it partly has to do with a notebook that he asked me to keep so he could see how Zen was fitting into our American life. And so I kept this notebook, and the things that I said are mostly inane, but the things that he said in return are priceless.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, you should put the whole notebook into your book.
Yeah. I was just looking, and I can see that I can do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, let me know how that's going. I think you should finish that.
Okay, I'm going to try. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Cool. So you're in Santa Barbara now.
Yes.
And you were living in Santa Barbara long ago after you left the Bay Area.
Yes. Right. We moved down here because the children, it was kind of hard in the neighborhood up there on Page Street, and so we got invited to come down to Santa Barbara by a fellow who was doing a group down here, and so we came down and then had the little Zendo in our house, and was a good time. It was a good time in my mind, in my memories.
What year was that you and your husband, Tony, Tony,
Yeah.
whereas you are TONI. What year did you come? Go
Down to Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
About 1970 or 71.
Did you come
71.
Before Suzuki Roshi died?
Yes, yes. And before he knew he was dying, or at least he wasn't telling us.
Well, he
Yeah.
didn't know he had cancer until October of 71.
Okay. Well, yeah, we were certainly not there then.
Yeah. He thought. Well, the doctor had thought it was hepatitis. But that isn't what it was. So, where do you come from?
Oh, my father was a hospital administrator with the VA, so we moved around all over the country. I started out, was born in DuPont, Washington, and then moved to Carmel, and then moved to Virginia, and on and on.
Really? And what was he? What?
He was a hospital administrator with the VA, and he was very good at getting hospitals started or getting them out of trouble. So we would go on a mission to do that. And I didn't mind at all at the time. I thought it was a big adventure.
Well,
Didn't mind.
A lot of time it's hard on kids to do that because they make friends and then they have to leave their friends. Did you experience that?
Yes, I did. And, I thought that it wasn't so bad, but we moved around, of course, with our kids, and they didn't like it so much.
Yeah.
Especially Rhonda. She got insecure from that, but she never said a word about it until she was all grown up. But, yeah. And I went to school in Vancouver, Washington, and then college in Pullman and Seattle, and then finished up down here at UCSB in film studies of all things.
No kidding.
Like I get to make, yeah, it was exciting, but it was a while ago, and I didn't have any contacts to really get in the business of it, so I just wrote screenplays with my friend Victoria, which of course never got sold, but it kept us excited.
Wow.
Yeah.
What year did you graduate from college?
1975, I'm going to say.
Oh.
Long time ago, and then I went to law school.
Oh.
And I became an attorney, and I did a death penalty case with my now husband, and the guy was saved from the death penalty, and so it was a real wonderful experience. But then I came up to San Francisco and was going to try to work as a lawyer, and I couldn't really get any leads, any jobs. So that was a disappointment. But I didn't want to be an attorney, really. I wanted to be a priest, and I said that to Blanche, and she told me that I had to stay an attorney to raise money for the center, to contribute that way. And of course, I was just not eager to do that at all.
Wow. So you were up in the Bay Area. Oh, but now you said you graduate. When did you graduate from high school?
Oh, in 1958.
So you didn't. So what happened after high school? Where'd you go?
Went to Washington State, and then after that to University of Washington. And then Toni and I moved down to the Bay Area. And
in what year?
I'm awful with these things. I'm not sure what. Well, I could figure it out. 1961, I'd say 1961 about.
Mm.
And he was trying out for to be of all things a police officer, but that's when he found out that he only had 1 year, and you have to have 2 years to be a police officer. So he was saved from continuing down that path, which was.
You mean he didn't have hearing out of 1 ear?
Yeah, one of his ears. He was born without 1 ear. And
Oh,
they did some plastic surgery.
You mean he actually didn't have an ear?
That's right.
Did he have an orifice there?
No. So he couldn't hear at all out of the one side of his head. So that was decidedly a handicap for that. But anyway, he was a school teacher. He became a school teacher by going to get a degree that they were offering at San Jose State, I guess it was, for people with a college degree, because he had a college degree in business. And so they would hire them as a school teacher and just kind of let them loose on it. And that's what happened to him when we were down here. We were down in the Bay Area. Down here. Well, we were down in the Bay Area, and he got a job with a school down there. I get in Fremont. You know where that is. Mm-hmm. And then we met Suzuki Roshi. And it was from there that we moved to San Francisco. And that must have been in 1965.
Mm. No, you met Suzuki Roshi before then, didn't you?
What am I saying? 1965?
Mm-hmm.
No,
Oh, really?
That's right.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Oh.
When he was coming down to Los Altos, and we went over to Los Altos and then decided that this was the thing to do, was to move to San Francisco. So when we had the 2 little kids then, and we moved up to San Francisco.
From where?
From Fremont.
Oh, now I associate you with the Los Altos Zendo, and there first.
Uh-huh.
Where was the first place you sat?
At Tim Buckley's place in Palo Alto. I mean, the place that he was having people come and sit.
Timber Cat.
Yeah. And so that's where I started. And then it was
you were sitting with
that.
Timber Cat.
Yeah.
That was 64, I think. But you think 65?
Might have been. I'm terrible with numbers.
Terrible. Because if you were sitting with Timber Cat, that's right when he started. Because
coming down there, yeah.
Because after the Suzuki had been sitting with some Stanford students there, in Palo Alto at his place. It moved to a woman's home for about half a year. No, before Marion.
Before Marion. Yeah, there was a couple meetings at some other woman's house. I don't know who it was. We were given the address. It was going to be in the evening, and I saw Marion driving around, and I had seen her at this sitting group, and I said, "Are you looking for what I'm looking for?" And she said, "Yes. He's a Zen master. He must have given us the wrong address to test us." I said, "No, I think we just can't find it yet." But anyway, and then she started doing it at her home in the mornings after that.
Right. Oh.
Yeah.
So.
And in the evenings, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got to drive him to the Los Altos group in the evenings, and Toni drove him to Berkeley in the morning, over to Mel's group.
Mm-hmm.
And we did pretty good for a long time, sharing the practice. Like, I could go and he could go, and it worked out well. When we went to Tassajara, that was not the case. At Tassajara, he got made a dough on, which meant he had to be in there, most of the time in the Zendo, in the Buddha Hall, whatever, and I had to stay with the kids, and so it didn't work well. But then what happened was I didn't stay down at the cabin all the time. I went to Zazen, and poor Rhonda was very afraid being left in the cabin with her brother. And I had no idea because she was such a little trooper. I didn't know. And I thought the place was so safe, who could be worried? And but anyway, that's just come up lately. Yeah.
That's interesting. How old was she at that time?
She was 6 and 7.
And you had a boy, what? Right?
Yeah, Aaron, and then a little boy. I mean, I had a baby that I brought there, and that was Philip. Philip. He was born in 1968.
Oh, wow, yeah. Yeah. So, when did you and Toni get together?
Oh, in college in Washington State University. I was getting off the train, and I had this big formal gown over my arm. I was just this freshman that didn't know what was what, and he gave me a ride from the train station up to the dorm, and that was the beginning of a long relationship.
So that was interesting. You said Toni would drive Suzuki to Berkeley, and
in the morning.
But is that when you were living in
San
Francisco? So
then he did that, and I did to Los Altos. Except some mornings, I think he drove to Los Altos. I'm not sure.
No, he never drove. He never drove
down there.
Oh, there were many different people that would drive him. I've had so many people tell me they drove Suzuki to Los Altos. Oh
my goodness, that's funny. Because I drove him there the whole time he was giving those lectures that became Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I even asked him some questions in my notebook about that, about like his talks. But I'm sure people did after that, or maybe sometimes when I couldn't do it.
Well, if somebody drove him once or twice, I did. I remember. They remember it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, sure.
It
It was kind of the highlight. The highlight of my life was driving Suzuki Roshi and having that time.
What do you remember about it?
Well, that we would talk, and I would ask him questions, and then sometimes he would lecture about them in the lecture, and other times I would just tell him things and ask him questions right there in the car.
Do you remember anything
answers.
specific?
Oh, yeah, sure. You want me to tell you everything well, that's when I told him the thing about which you've got in your book about that I had such strong feelings for him that I didn't know if they were right or not. And he told me that he said, good. He said, you can have all the feelings you want for your master because I have enough discipline for both of us. And I thought that was really something in terms of what happened later with some other priests, not with me, but with other students. I thought Roshi was so strong and straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's exceptional that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell me
more.
more.
I told him about how I wanted to be a priest. Well, I said a nun in those days. I wanted to be a nun. And I wrote it in my notebook, and I said I was embarrassed to say it because I didn't know if it was ever a possibility. But when my children were raised, I wanted to come and live in his temple and help be a priest. And I said, do you think that's possible? And he said, I hope so. Which was rather sad, but I thought, well, at least it's not a crazy idea on my part.
Yeah.
But I hope so. So he couldn't guarantee me. I mean, dear man, didn't live that long.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. Indeed. So, we got Tassajara in, just right at the last few days of December. Probably wasn't signed until early January or something. But, we had people going down there right away.
Yeah.
When did you and Toni first go down?
We didn't go down until the summer we didn't go down ever for the training periods, just for 2 summers. And that was, let me tell you when it was. It was in 1960. 4 or 5.
No. We got 67 was the first year at Tassajara.
Okay.
You were there in that
after
summer. All right. The kids' school was 1970. The kids' school was 70 and 71.
With Lynn.
Pardon?
With Lynn Lockey, that school? The school that Lynn and I did together, is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah, Tassajara.
You talked to Lynn, yeah, at Tassajara.
Yeah.
Yes. The year before, Toni and I had tried to do it was just our kids, and it didn't work out too well because we had to also do some of the work schedule.
Yeah.
So when Lynn came along, it was great because then we had time to be with the kids and do things with them, instead of just turning them entirely loose.
That was
So they had a lot of free time.
yeah. That was 1970, and
Okay.
that's when you all sewed the rock suits.
Yes, right.
So
Yeah, and she's sending you some wonderful pictures of that, I think.
oh yeah, we've got them. We've already got them online.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you have that one with Roshi leaning over with a flower in his hand, touching, I think it was touching Leaf's head, one of the kids' head with the flower? Maybe not. It doesn't matter.
I'm making a note.
That one has a picture of me in it, too, looking at Roshi.
I'll have to check the photos.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I've got a note on it. And
But they were very good about making their roxus. I was really surprised. I was surprised at my own son, Aaron, actually sewing his roxu, and he was only, let's see, he must have been 6 that year.
And then Rhoda, is that her name?
Rhonda.
Rhonda would be 7.
Rhonda. Yeah.
Now,
I didn't know you'd ask me so many years. I'm not very good at these numbers.
well, that doesn't matter.
Whenever I'm asked questions.
It doesn't matter. You're right. The years don't matter. But Toni was also involved with the Shire School.
Yeah, Toni and me. We did Shire School, the free school in the Haight-Ashbury, and we talked to Roshi about it before we did it, and got some just a little bit of advice, like having the children manipulate objects in order to learn about things. It's kind of the Montessori way, actually. Mm-hmm. But anyway, we started first. We started in a church, and then they kept shutting us down, the building inspectors, because they weren't set up any of these places for schools.
Yeah.
And so we were in about 5 different buildings during the time that we were doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the Shire School might have started in 69 or around there.
Maybe so. Maybe Lynn knows. I don't know these things exactly.
Yeah, was Lynn involved with Shire School?
She was just in the summer when we were doing a summer school, and it wasn't Shire School yet. It was called Bag End School. And she had enough sense after that summer to see that it was going to be too chaotic. Mm-hmm. So she didn't go forward into the wildness of doing the free school and the Haight-Ashbury and around and about and in.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was hard, and it got to be so that it was too chaotic for our own kids. And so we went up to Mount Shasta and did a little free school in Mount Shasta, and then realized we weren't making a living, and so he decided to become a country school teacher. And we went around interviewing at the various schools in Siskiyou County, which Mount Shasta is in. and he had long hair and everything. We cut his hair to go for these interviews, and I was pregnant at the time, and anyway, we felt we were doing sneaking into the world of getting a paycheck, but they hired him. And I would help in the school with as long as he wanted me to. But sometimes I'd just not be involved in the one-room school. But he did that for 2 years. He did that in Sawyer's Bar.
Oh.
And it was there that we were in Sawyer's Bar when we came to Tassajara that first summer.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's a tiny place. You've
been up there?
Yeah, it's hardly even is there a town?
Yeah, there's a town. It's a Forest Service town. It's old. I mean, it had some really old places from when it was more of a mining thing.
Wow. You all moved around.
Yeah, so
you're
ask my kids. Yeah.
You're in so many places.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we moved back from there, from Sawyer's Bar. We moved to Zen Center, to living above Katagiri Roshi and Tomoe-san and Yachan and Eijo's house, right next to Zen Center.
Right.
So we lived there for a while, and Toni taught in a Montessori school that Yvonne Rand was involved in.
The San Francisco school.
Yeah, right. So he taught there, and we lived and went to Zen Center.
Yeah.
But then, as I say, it became kind of unsafe in the neighborhood, and we got this other opportunity, and so we decided it would be a nice place to raise kids, and it is.
Yeah, Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
And you had a little sitting group there. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember when you moved down there. Yeah.
Yeah. That was nice.
Yeah, I was sorry to see you guys go. I wasn't living in the city, but I knew you were there. I'd come to the city sometimes from Tassajara.
Yeah.
But you were you at Tassajara in the last summer? In 71?
No, just the last. The summer, whatever summer that was, the children's Raksu ceremony was held, was the last year.
Yeah, it's 70.
We came to Tassajara.
70. And then, then you moved to Santa Barbara. So what happened after you moved to Santa Barbara?
Well, it went pretty well, but our marriage started to fall apart. And like one time I knew it was really over was when I was carrying the stick and I went behind him and he was asleep and I placed it on the stick on his shoulder and he sat up and got mad. And I thought, oh boy, this isn't working. And we ended up getting a divorce that year, and I went back to Minneapolis to study with Katagiri Roshi.
Oh.
And took 2 of the kids with me. So they got uprooted again and went to study with Katagiri Roshi and did puppet shows for my my daily life.
Really?
Shows for the city.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know that Marion
cool.
Marion Derby used to do puppet shows?
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
And my present wife had a traveling puppet theater with her first husband.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, good. Well, I had a company called Uppity Puppetry because we were uppity.
Oh, that's neat. That's neat.
Yeah, and then let's see what happened.
Well, how was it in Minneapolis with Katakiri?
Well, it was a little strange because I was so used to him being kind of like a brother, kind of like, I mean, because I used to help him with his English, when we lived in San Francisco, and for his lectures and go over them with him, and I felt close to him that way. But when I was there, that was when he had his infidelity, and I knew about it, and I felt really bad. I can't explain it, but I left and came back to Santa Barbara again with the kids. Goes on and on, doesn't it?
Yeah, keep going.
So we went back to Santa Barbara, and then soon after that I went back to school to UCSB and got the degree in film studies. I was able to get it in 1 year because I had 3 years of elementary education, so I had a lot of requirements fulfilled, and I just got to take all film classes, which was fun.
Huh.
And, then started writing screenplays with Vicky, my woman friend who I was in a relationship with for almost 19 years. And I was in a relationship with her that was dissolving when I came up to San Francisco by myself. When when I went up there. I mean, I can't guess the year again.
Yeah. That was more like in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I came up back to in the 90s. You're right. I remember. Whew.
Yeah.
God, what a trip. We're trying to remember these things. Something.
And so you met your husband when you were doing this death penalty case.
Yes.
And
I was a student. At Santa Barbara College of Law. I was 53, but I was going to law school, and I signed up for an independent studies at the public defender's office because I wanted to be a public defender. So I went there, and I just happened to get put on this case that had just come in, and the head public defender said, Mr. Weisberg could really use some help. And so it was a big thrill to me because I was suddenly being an attorney while I was still in law school. And I passed the bar while we were doing the trial, etc. But then the reason I left there was because I didn't get hired by the public defender's office. And I didn't know till later, till I had to explain to me it was my age, I'd be nearing retirement before too long. I was 53 when I passed, so about 54. And I couldn't make a living trying to be a lawyer by myself. And a couple of lawyers that were associated with Zen Center said they would have some writing work for me to do. And I blocked on the names now because it's emotional to me because I got stuck doing filing clerk stuff and it was awful. It was terrible.
Mm. Mm.
I thought, this is what I went to law school for? No. And this is what I came to San Francisco for? No. And so that's when I went into my big depression and did the unforgivable thing of going to the bridge and almost getting over the railing. And, yeah. And then I was in the hospital for 3 weeks and I got wonderful treatment. But Zen Center, said I could come back and live there if they had access to my medical records. And at that time, I, for some reason, didn't think that was fair. And I now think that was a very fair thing. Since I tried to jump off the bridge, maybe they'd like to know what I'm thinking about. But it, so I moved out, but I did a lot of volunteer stuff up there as an attorney, and it was very, very stimulating and made me feel like a whole person who's contributing to society in her own little way.
Yeah.
And
so you were
I
doing
felt much
volunteer
better.
work as an attorney.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
but there you were using it then. Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, and then also the drama. I was using the drama there was a brain injured group that we did a group, and then also disabled were mostly. Well, anyway, I did that, and that was fun doing theater with them.
Yeah.
So that also made me feel better.
Yeah.
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 And,
I was seeing you during this difficult period you had.
You would?
Yeah. That's when you were up there at that time, that's when I did the wonderful interview with you. That's on Cube.com. And I used so much of what you had to say in Crooked Cucumber. It was great. And that's when you told me that you had Marion Derby's original manuscript for Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind.
I still do. But I thought you had copies of it.
Well, that's what I'm telling you now. So I was working on Crooked Cucumber, and one thing I was doing was I had been collecting all of the transcripts and recordings and everything that I could of Suzuki Roshi lectures because they weren't really collected well.
No, in fact, I asked when I was there, I asked Michael Wegner, is that it?
Wenger.
And if I could listen to some of the tapes. And he said, no, they weren't giving them out. So.
Well, they didn't have copies. They didn't have.
Oh.
You know.
You had to make the copies.
Well, that was taken care of, and Michael worked on that and saw that tapes were available to listen to in the library, but they had to. It was a whole process of first archiving the original tapes. There were copies, single copies, made at the time they were recorded. But anyway, we didn't have a lot from the original Los Altos because Les Kay had given the tapes to some woman he thought was taking them to the Zen Center, and all but two of them were lost.
We
never saw them again. And I feel bad because when I learned that, I think I had some clues I could have followed up on to find them. And I was so busy I didn't do it. But that's all right. We've got quite a bit. But And also, the librarian at Zen Center, no, it was a woman in the office, Diane from England, showed me in the library storage room a box with the original the original transcriptions of all the lectures that is just stuck away there.
Oh, good.
And so I got all that and put that online and everything. It took a lot. I stayed up all night once I saw that in the photocopy room of Zen Center. And I was still working when people were going to Zazen the next morning.
Yeah, it was so wonderful to find.
But what you had was, I guess Marion had given a few bound, sort of like with loose leaf folders.
With that funny kind of paper, like carbon paper, kind of.
I can't.
Not carbon paper, but it has a funny feel to it.
Yeah.
It's not like a regular sheet of paper.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was in a blue binder, I think. But so I was talking to you about making a copy of it, and you were going through some different, like you said, very difficult period. And it took a while for you to agree to do it. And we had lunch at Green's, and we just started talking.
That was lovely.
Yeah, we talked and talked. We drank a bunch of wine.
Did I just drop whatever I was supposed to do or something? Was I supposed to give you?
No.
You
brought it with you, and we went over to the Kinko's, and I made a copy of it. And
of Marion's thing.
Yeah, of Mary. It only had 13 lectures. It was called. She called it Beginner's Mind, and it was selected lectures. And it was like an important piece of history. But here's something you told me at that time. You told me the reason you did not jump off the Golden Gate Bridge was because you remembered that you had that book, and you thought, if I do this, you were staying in a cheap hotel room in the Mission or somewhere, because I picked you up there, and you said, that will be lost, and I can't do that. I have to go back and protect it. Do you remember that?
Oh, my goodness. Now that you tell me, it sounds true. Yeah, because I know that had a lot to do with why I was keeping going. You know, how you have something in your mind that makes you feel like you're doing something.
Wow. Well, you know, I lost track of you after that. And I really didn't know anything about you until a few weeks ago when Lynn, who I also hadn't been in touch with Lynn since 1971 or something, you know, or way back then. And I can't even remember how I got in touch with her. Oh, I had some emails with her. Oh, I know why. Because a mother of one of my son's friends, my older one, my younger one, was related to her. They were like, I don't know. I can't remember. Very closely related.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
so anyway, you got in touch with her. And
so she said she was in touch with you. And I went, oh, my God, I would love to talk to Toni.
Well, I'm sorry I haven't been too helpful with all these years and stuff with making it clear for you, the process of the unfolding of the years. You
have nothing to be sorry about. You've had a wonderful, fascinating life, and you've contributed a lot to Zen Center, and you've contributed an enormous amount to the Cuke archives.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
And you sound so You sound great. What year were you born?
I am 1940.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So I'm 83, just turned 83 last month. Yeah.
Wow.
But I'm okay. I sometimes think I'm losing my memory, but don't we all?
No,
And
you're
other
not.
times-
You're not. You're.
Well,
Look, memory deteriorates. I remember once Mark Alexander told me we start losing proper nouns in our 30s.
great, huh? Yeah.
But that's
well, I've never been good with years. Period. Even when I was young, years, and my sense of time is very bad. Very bad sense of time. But that's all right. It usually doesn't matter.
That's true. That's true.
Oh, so how did I get down to Santa Barbara this time? We didn't tell how I got.
Oh, I want to hear
time.
that. Well, wait a minute. You're married to this guy. No, wait a minute. No, you're not married. You got together with him over that court case.
And he was married, so we didn't get together when I was down here.
Yeah.
But when I was up there, his wife died. And I sent him a sympathy letter, and he responded, and then he came up to see me, and then he invited me down, and then here I came, and I didn't know whether I was doing law with him or being a partner or being a lover. It wasn't clear at all. But then after everything settled down, it's been just wonderful. It's been lovely. He's real easy to get along with, and it's good.
Oh, that's wonderful. And
he rescued me. Really, he rescued me.
And that was around 1990, late 90s, huh?
Yeah, I came to live here in 2000. I've got that one down.
All right.
I came to live here in 2000, so it was just right before that.
And did you help him with his law practice?
Well, he was doing a compassionate cannabis center thing, starting up the first one in Santa Barbara. And we were just working on that, and then he was retired from public defender, and he just did some cannabis law, and then cannabis got legal, and so he's retired, happily retired. Yeah,
well, that's wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. Because, the last time I was with you was in the where you were in a very, what would you say? It was not the height of your life. It was the depth of it. Like you said, you were depressed.
Yeah.
So
I had put so much on coming to Zen Center. And, you can't do that. You can't have in your mind how this is going to be my life. And it turned out to be very disappointing and depressing. And people seemed so cold to me and compared to when Suzuki Roshi was there. And everybody went around not gosh showing to each other. And this one person, the top of the stairs, gosh showed to me. And I said, "You look like Robert Icke," and he said, "I am." And he was the only person who gave any, well, like you're supposed to acknowledge people's presence.
the Zen Center has never been a real love bombing type place.
No.
You know what love bombing is? That was something the Moonies did. Anybody who would come, any new prospect or anything, people would just bomb them with love and everything, and it would just make them want to stay. And it was a great recruiting tool. Zen Centers never people. I mean, I hear all the time. I have heard that people would come and they didn't feel it was particularly welcoming. It would depend, though, on who they met. You know.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. And during that time at Zen Center in the beginning, when we first moved up there, when Baker was president, I was secretary of Zen Center, and I was terrible because I'm a terrible typist, and so I didn't last.
That's
Yvonne Rand took over.
Yeah. So that's like in 66, 67, right, when we first got Tassajara.
Yeah, right then, because I was so unaware or naive about how the world worked, and I thought we should just get a little place in the country somewhere that, you know, we could afford for, and of course I wasn't thinking big enough, and luckily other people were, and they got going on the project, and now there's Tassajara.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what was your relationship with Dick like?
Oh, well, that's funny. Well, he hardly ever looked at me, and I finally, at one point, I wrote to Suzuki Roshi in my notebook about Baker Roshi and how I thought he was very cold and he was into relationships with the not highbound people, but I mean important people, and he didn't have the warmth Suzuki Roshi had. And I just thought maybe Suzuki Roshi couldn't tell it because of the language difference.
All right, now wait a minute. If you wrote Suzuki Roshi about Dick, he wasn't Baker Roshi. He was Dick. It was Richard Baker,
Dick.
Right?
It was Dick.
So you're talking about when Suzuki was alive. You wrote in your diary, in your notebook, something about
that I didn't think he knew Dick Baker to be putting so much responsibility on him, because he didn't seem like a very warm teacher to be.
Well, he wasn't a teacher then. He was a student.
No, but he was a student, but he was, you know, he was looking like he was going to be Suzuki Roshi's disciple.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. Even then in 66, you know, Suzuki offered him transmission in 67. Suzuki wanted to give him transmission from when we started Tassajara, and Dick refused. He said, no, it's too soon.
Oh. Well, good for him. Okay.
So,
yeah,
you know, there were so many people that could not see what Suzuki saw in Dick. And a lot of people, when he was going to give him transmission and stuff, and in like 1970, before he went to Japan to do that, he met with senior students, senior priests, and everything, and they all said they were all against. They weren't against Dick I mean, Dick was already ordained as a priest. I mean, they didn't want to see Dick in charge. They didn't. They were telling Suzuki not to do it. I don't see how they could do that.
That's interesting that other people did approach him.
Oh, yeah.
With the feelings,
He got a stone wall there, and he just told him, you're going to have to trust me on this.
Yeah. When I turned in my notebook, I would always do it after Zazen, I would have turned it in before. Not before Zazen, but the day before. And he would hand it back to me when you go through the office to Gasho, at the end of Zazen.
Yeah.
And he would give me back my notebook. Well, this time he hit me on the head with it and whispered in my ear, "You are as naughty as Dick Baker." Which really put me in my place. I thought, woo. But, I mean, he had a humor, he was being humorous about it and realistic, and it was very good lesson.
Yeah.
But it didn't make me feel comfortable with Dick Baker, though.
Yeah. Well, one thing, and I pointed this out in Crooked Cucumber, is that Dick would say, I'm the only one who really understands. I'm the only one who's gotten the message. I'm the only one who's really practicing with Suzuki Roshi.
Oh, geez.
And he'd say it in front of Suzuki Roshi. I mean, not time after time, but I heard him do that once, and Suzuki just sat there,
Wow.
It was very, what I saw was that Dick had an understanding and a relationship with Suzuki that Suzuki did feel was, it was like there was Dick was number one and he was number two also. It was like, it was his, the way Suzuki related to him and promoted him was beyond anything he was doing with anyone else. Next, though, would be Silas, really. He gave Bill Kwong a transmission. But anyway, enough of all that. Anyway, that's very interesting. You had that. But
Suzuki Roshi knew what he was doing, and I obviously was being silly. No, it was true. I really felt like I was telling him something that was lost in the culture. He was, a social climber and so forth, and.
Well, that's interesting that is the aspect of him that you pointed out back then.
And that he was cold.
Well,
but see, he was only cold to people, I guess, who weren't important to him. He didn't have some reason to have them on his side or something.
Yeah.
Because he made no effort at all, as I say, to even look at me, let alone speak to me.
Yeah.
Even when I was secretary. It was like I was just absent from his reality.
Yeah. Well, let's look at another person who was very close to Suzuki Roshi and was ordained by him back in 1964, I guess, with Philip Wilson.
Oh, I know. I knew Philip Wilson. My gosh. He was a character, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
One way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was coming down. I think he was driving Roshi down from San Francisco to Palo Alto that first time that I sat there, and I remember he came in too, and thought he was quite delightful, charming, but was he a little crazy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
That's too bad.
Well, he was the second head monk, the second Shuso, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, what Dick said to me once was nobody bonded with Suzuki Roshi like Philip Wilson. And when they were together, when they worked together, they were like a unit. If Philip was around Suzuki, he was like enlightened. But as soon as Suzuki was away, it didn't work.
Oh, this is so interesting because when I would do have doksan, I would never have any questions because they all went away when I'd be sitting in front of Suzuki Roshi, and it would almost feel like we were levitating, and I didn't have any questions. And he asked me, "Do you have questions?" And I said, "No, not when I'm with you." And he said, "It's called awakened antennae. When you're with me, you share my enlightenment." So that must be like Philip and he.
Yeah. I mean, it eventually got to be where he had. I believe that he told Philip it would be better if he wasn't around.
Oh.
And I'm in touch with JJ, who's your age, and who was, she met Philip in the 50s at Stanford. In fact, she said he was the first person she met. They got married. And, he was a very prominent football player. He was well known.
That's what I hear, yeah.
He was right guard. And I have, he's told me, and I have on Q.com, what he has to say about his experience. He'd end up in the hospital after every game. Well, JJ said that Philip had cranial thrombosis. It's like CTD or something. The brain disease that football players get from having multiple concussions. And she said, that football did him in, and he started, even at Stanford, changing. And she said he became like a different person.
Well, that explains a lot.
Yeah.
That's interesting to hear. Yeah, because I named my second son Philip after him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
But see, then I didn't see him around anymore. I mean, I don't know. I just remembered him as something bright and shining.
Yeah. He was, Suzuki wanted him to be a teacher. He wanted him to have, he wanted to send him to the East Coast to be with these high society ladies who sat Zazen.
Oh,
And, that's the way we saw it. I don't know if you'd actually, there were, that might not be far from an accurate description. And I thought, my God, what sort of fit is that?
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, that was, he was going to go there, but then when we got Tassajara, Suzuki needed him at Tassajara.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when did he finally fade away, or Suzuki Roshi asked him not to be around so much?
Like, I'd say around 1970, 69, 70. Philip was, living across the street from Zen Center, and I just, I don't know, he didn't have anything to do, and
just sort of hang around, huh?
Well, he was drinking, and his behavior just wasn't compatible with other people, and he'd have, he'd have periods where he'd act very strangely, or and he was so big, and tough and everything. It would sort of frighten some people. And there was a woman who had an affair with him back then, who wasn't involved with Zen Center, who became very frightened of him and didn't want to see him anymore. So anyway.
He really went downhill.
Well, he'd still, even, I can remember around, in the early parts of this century, him coming to meetings of Suzuki disciples. And I remember I talked to him once about some of the things he had done. And he got really upset and said I was lying, that he'd never do. And the next meeting he came back, he was more contrite and said, "Did I really do those things?" And I said, "Yeah."
Wow.
So, but JJ says he died of it eventually. I don't know if that...
Of the brain disease that comes from concussions. Yeah, it must be so. Must be so.
Well, how about Silas? What was your relationship with him?
Silas. I just thought he was great. I love Silas. And I didn't have a close relationship with him, but he was always warm and pleasant. And that year at Tassajara, when Amber was born, he was having us. We were all helping him take care of the baby because Kathy was having a postpartum depression or something.
Oh, yeah, worse than that. She was having an extreme
break.
Yeah. Yeah. So you helped. Well, that was...
Yeah, with Amber. Yeah, that was the year that the children made their Roxus.
Yeah. I think Kathy actually had to leave Tassajara and go into an institution for a while.
I think maybe so.
Yeah. And, but she recovered from all that.
Good.
It was, but one of the problems that happened with her was some of the early women that got pregnant at Tassajara, the community didn't know how to respond to it. They didn't. We didn't have enough elders. We didn't have women who'd had children and could. I mean, we had maybe a few, but the community didn't have that collective memory, that wisdom. So she was just alone, and there was an idea that Silas was head monk. He was Shuso, and that he should practice and she should take care of the baby. That's the Japanese model. We had Suzuki, we had Katagiri, we had Tatsugami. All saw it that way. All the Japanese saw it that way. That's the way they do in Japan. The priest practices and the mother takes care of the baby. But what they're leaving out is the mother had a temple, had a community, had a family. but they didn't have that at Tassajara. So it was really hard on the first women who were pregnant, except for Ruthie Disco, who wasn't a student. They had a wonderful experience.
Uh-huh. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
But incidentally, that became much better under Dick Baker. Dick was very pro-family.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I mean, there were women at Tassajara because of him. And I was there.
You mean there weren't going to be women at Tassajara?
Suzuki had never thought about he'd never seen a monastery with men and women.
No.
It had never been one.
Yeah.
I was there with my first wife, Dia, and Kelly. We moved there when Kelly was a few months old, and we had a great time. And
where are you saying?
At Tassajara. Yeah.
Oh, good. Good.
We had a lot of help, but even though I was head monk, I spent, as much time as I could with little Kelly, but also we had help from students. There wasn't that idea there had been before of, she's a student, she should be practicing. It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
It had to evolve.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, my goodness. So, Rhonda wants to talk to me. All right, you connect us.
Yeah. Yeah. I will.
Yeah. Well, what have we left out? What have you kept from us here?
I've left out sort of trying to find another teacher after Roshi died, like going to Katagiri, and then I went to a session with Sasaki Roshi.
Oh yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, and I didn't like him from the beginning. When I'd have my koans, he'd always say, "Show me how you would be married to," and then he'd say something like a pine tree or a bird, and I'd get up and do something, and then he'd pass me on it, and it was like I felt it was just a game playing thing, and I felt embarrassed that I was playing the game. And then he said how women and men shouldn't be dressing alike. And here we were dressing alike because we were Zen students and we were sitting in Zazen. But anyway, I found out about him. Oh, when I sat, Leonard Cohen sat across from me when I sat with Sasaki Roshi. And it was so fun being across from Leonard Cohen. And then, of course, I've read since then about him and Roshi and talking about women and stuff, and I'm sure they did. So,
did you talk to Leonard Cohen any, or?
No, I didn't.
Oh, because you were just there for a session.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't living there.
Yeah.
I was just there for a session. And it was kind of fun because it was different. It was the fast walking and everything that the Vinzai do,
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
But then when I left, I had the feeling, but you can't trust my feelings. I had the feeling that he was trying to get me to stay. I had the feeling that he had that kind of seductive, manipulative, almost coercion kind of thing. But he didn't say you should stay. He didn't say that.
Well, isn't that sort of normal for, you met a teacher, you sat with him, and he wanted you to stay? What's the problem?
Oh, well, I just didn't trust him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Didn't trust him.
I got it.
And then, let's see, what else did I do? Oh, well, later, after I came down here this last time to Santa Barbara, I went online with Bill Kwong.
Yeah.
And that was good, and I was getting up in the morning and sitting with them, on Zoom. But then he had a book of Sasaki Roshi's that he was lecturing out of and having us read and study. And I told him that, he was a womanizer and that he had, hurt several people. And he said, yes, but when he writes about it, when he writes, it's so clear. And I thought, yeah. And I said, but it doesn't make us feel good, most of us women, when we have to hear about this guy as this great teacher, when we know that he has gone astray. That's not the word for it. But, and Bill wouldn't budge on it. He kept saying, no, it just doesn't matter. And so then I quit sitting with them. So that's another thing I quit.
Mm-hmm.
Which was kind of a shame because it did have me getting up with people every morning and sitting with other people in a way, that was good.
That's very interesting that Bill Kwong was using a book of Sasaki's to teach with.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought here we could be reading Suzuki Roshi or somebody else. We don't have to be doing. And I talked to another woman who was studying up there, and she said they had talked to him about it, but he just didn't see the problem.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. When it came out about Sasaki publicly, I had known about it, I swear, for at least a decade. And
wow.
I had heard that his board confronted him, a decade before, and talked to him about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he just said, well, I need it, I'll go back to Japan. He said, I like women.
Oh.
He just could not see their point. So what I heard was they started telling women, look, if he comes on to you, just tell him no,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, especially when you're forewarned, it helps, but, yeah.
Yeah. That's something. Well, what else?
That's probably it, except that now I'm not sitting with a group and I don't drive and I live atop of a hill with a steep driveway, and I can't even try to start a little group here because there's no place for people to come and park. But that's not. I should be connected somehow. I should be. But there's a Santa Barbara Zen Center that meets once every 2 weeks or something. I don't know, ever so often. But they said they followed the teachers they followed, and one of them was Maizumi Roshi and Suzuki Roshi, they said. But Maizumi Roshi, I also didn't want to be following Maizumi Roshi.
Now, why is that?
Because he had affairs.
Oh, indeed he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, many. He was sort of different. Like if you look at Edo, who came on in New York to just about every woman he could at any time for his entire career. When Edo was confronted with it, he was combative, you know. He'd say, "You're my enemy," you know, if you do, you know. Maizumi would admit it and say it was outrageous and that he needed help. He was, and he did that about drinking too. His drinking, you know, he went into treatment and cried with his student. Maizumi had different sides to him. Very interesting.
I see.
Did you know him? Did you have any experience with him?
No, I really didn't. Only I think when he came up to Zen Center once. But I didn't have any bad experiences with him. No, I didn't. I didn't know him. But then Bill was talking about, and I don't know that I say it right, Chumpa?
Yeah, who was talking about? Oh, Bill Kwong.
Bill Kwong.
Yeah.
And about him admiringly, and yet, boy, this is real gossip.
Yeah.
But he told me that Chumpa had said he wanted to have sex with Bill's wife, and Bill said it like it was kind of cool. They didn't do it, I'm sure. I can't imagine that she would have. But then I thought that about Bill. I thought, that's funny. Why do you think that's cool? I mean, he's supposed to be a teacher. He's not supposed to be wanting to go to bed with your wife.
Oh, Trump is was just wide open about sleeping with again any woman who would or he was interested in, and it wasn't like affairs. It was almost a part of the practice at in Boulder. And you know, his son, who became his successor, was having affairs and was totally discredited because of it and had to go back to Nepal. It was so funny. I never understood what Trump was
why
this
his
way,
son?
but his son couldn't get away with it. I mean, it was.
Isn't that funny? Oh gosh.
Well, just look at it from the point of view of sexual desire, sexual drive, people being attracted to each other, and what I see is that practice by itself, some idea of practice or enlightenment or anything like that, doesn't appear to me to diminish the sex drive at all.
No.
So then it's going to be social pressure.
Well, discipline of not giving in to each desire as it comes along. Use discipline.
Yeah, but you've got to have a society that really reinforces it with some. I mean, America was too promiscuous for it to have the backup You need
Yeah.
it sort of
When I
go,
first
well,
saw,
nobody really cares, or I don't know. It's hard to understand. I mean, I was very promiscuous too, but I was very, very careful not to be I was ordained as a priest and all that, and I did it. But I stopped wearing robes. I realized I don't want to have to be a good example. And then, as I got older.
When did you decide not to wear robes and do the thing?
Once I was Jisha, carrying the incense for Katagiri when he was at Green Gulch giving a lecture in, the 80s, say maybe 83 or something. And I would wear my robes when I was in the Zendo or if I was going to a lecture. And, I wasn't living at Zen Center then, but I'd come to events and stuff. So anyway, I guess I was staying at Green Gulch for a while. But when Katagiri, this was on a Sunday, so, I was a Jesus, so I sat near him. I walked in with him with the incense, and I sat near him, and so I was facing the several hundred people who'd come for his lecture, and I could see women looking at me, and I could see, I had good radar. I could see women looking at me like with interest, and I thought, it's my position in my robes. It's like a magnet. And I just didn't wear robes in public again.
So you didn't use that. You were trustworthy.
Yeah, I liked being promiscuous in that particular relationship I had because I was being wild and crazy. But, I didn't want to mix it with Zen Center. I'd done that a little when I was, in the 60s, good Lord, we were very promiscuous. But there weren't the repercussions that there got to be later.
When I met Silas, he was a member of the Sexual Freedom League way back in the beginning, and he had a little button on that said, "If it moves, caress it."
Silas Hoadley?
That's how promiscuous we... Yes. That was so funny. I thought it was cute. It made me laugh, but it was far out.
Before he came to Zen Center, and maybe when he first started sitting at Zen Center, he was living in a commune in the Haight-Ashbury, I guess before it was the Haight-Ashbury, that Isan Tommy Dorsey was involved with. I don't know the exact thing, but I think Charles Manson might have been involved in that, or, there was stuff happening. I don't quite know, but
what, in
Silas,
the Sexual Freedom League?
Well, no, I don't know any details, but there were psychedelics, there were, sexual freedom. It was like before Haight-Ashbury really got going. But then, Silas also was an importer and it was making a lot of money. And but at Zen Center, he was a very proper, rather, he didn't come across as wild at all. But
no, he didn't.
But very tolerant and wise and open-minded.
Yeah.
That's something. Well, yeah. Well, those are interesting topics we have looked into.
My goodness, yes. Haven't thought about some of this for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess we'll just keep practicing the best we can, huh?
Yes, we will.
Yeah. But I don't know. There's definitely online groups you could be associated with.
Yeah, I really have to. There's Vipassana, and what's his name that was a Soto Zen priest,
Gil.
Gil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gil Fronsdal.
I was sitting online with that group for a while, but then I thought, well, why am I not doing Zen pure the way my teacher showed me, and not trying to do some of these things like notice what's arising and blah, 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 and all these kind of trippy things to do while you're sitting, which was interesting, but I thought, this just isn't the way that I understand it
Right.
to be. But he's very good. He's, but because Lynn told me that she had sat with him or online or something and recommended him, because I talked to her about how I wasn't sitting with Bill's group anymore. And so then she told me about Gil. I did that for quite a while.
There you go. There's another one. Norman Fisher has a big group.
Online?
Yeah. Well, I guess. Sure, he's got to. Everybody's online.
Yes.
I have online Zazen.
You do?
Yeah, but it's at the first of every podcast I put on. But it's not live. You just, I posted it once. I said all you have to do is open it up and then hit pause and meditate for as long as you want.
Oh,
yeah. And we had a bell at the first. When you're through, you release pause. There's another bell, and that ends the meditation.
Oh, funny. Oh, that's funny. You're a card, I tell you. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Well, Lynn and I sometimes get together. We Zoom, and we sit some meditation together.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
I never felt any attraction to that.
To sitting Zazen?
Online together. Never. That's why I did the pause to meditate. But I get, you know what I could do? I should make a whole website for it. Pause to meditate. And it could just always be there. you just hit, all you have to do is hit click on one place and a bell rings. And when you're ready to end, just click on another place and a bell will ring.
Does it do that? Oh my gosh. That's funny.
And we're all sitting together because it's all the same time.
Yes.
Whenever you sit, you're sitting with all beings. You're sitting with everybody who ever sat.
Yeah. It's true. It's true.
Yeah. Wow. Well, look, Toni, let's see how long we've been talking. We have been talking for, I got to put my glasses on, 1 hour and 38 minutes and 4 seconds.
Okay. And we've covered a few topics in a few years.
Yeah.
And a few moves and a few things that wrinkled my forehead.
Well.
Things like the just Sasaki Roshi and all that. That really affected me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I met him a couple of times. In fact, it's going to be in the Tassara Stories book because it relates to Tassara and Zen Center. And I have an interview with him on Cuke.com that Bob Halperin and I did in 1969.
Oh, Bob Halpin. Where's Bob Halpin?
He's in Halifax.
Is he?
You know, all the Trungpa's people went, not all of them. Trungpa moved his center to Halifax, Nova Scotia.
I see.
And, yeah. So, anyway, well, look, dear, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. It really has. I'm just really happy to see how well you're doing.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to talk to you and just wish I'd been a little more coherent, maybe.
Oh, one thing we didn't touch on was Toni died. How long ago did he die?
Now it's been over 5 years. It's been. Maybe it could be going on 10.
Mm-hmm.
See how I am with time?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but he kept doing a group. I got to hand it to him. He kept sitting right up to almost the very end. He really was steady in his practice that way.
Oh, that's good. And that was was he involved with the group in Santa Barbara?
No, it was before that, really. Before that one existed, and it was, for quite a while.
No, but you said...
Just at his house.
Say that again?
At his house, he led the sessions.
Oh, you mean right up to before he died?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, that's good. That's good to hear. And did you all have much communication or anything?
Well, most of the time we did. Because he was sort of like a best friend, somebody that you marry so young and you go through so much together that. Yeah.
Oh, that's good to hear. All right. Well, okay. Listen, I want to encourage you to finish that book. If there's any way I can help you, let me know. Let's stay in touch about it.
Okay. Okay. All right, I will.
Yeah.
I will do that.
Yeah, that would be neat. That would be neat.
Okay, honey. Thank you very much for your time and your interest and your support. And we'll talk again.
Yeah, indeed. It's been wonderful. You take care.
Okay.
All right.
You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So thank you very much, Toni Johansen. Well, actually, she's not Johansen anymore. She's Toni Weisberg. And between Johanna and Weisberg, she was McCarty. So thanks a lot, Toni Weisberg, formerly Johansen, formerly McCarty. Appreciate it, and we'll be hearing from you later when you read that notebook of yours. That's pretty cool. That's already recorded. Okay. So this has been a Cuke Audio podcast. I'm DC Puba of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, coming to you from sleepy Sanur, with Doggett Bandita, Feline Cuchita, and dear lovely Katrinka. And we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.